My name is Olivia. I'm 40 years old. I've been married to my husband, Michael, who is the same age as me and was my colleague at work for 10 years now. I'm currently in a different branch from my husband, but we used to be in the same department. He is a man of strong responsibility, admired by his subordinates. He has a bit of a show-off side and doesn't seem to want to show his weaknesses to others. He was a very masculine man, full of confidence and ambition. His work performance is well regarded by his superiors, and he is expected to be promoted without any problems. On the other hand, I'm quite the low-key type who doesn't stand out much. Given our opposite personalities, I was honestly surprised when he made a passionate approach to me. After dating for 2 years, he proposed to me with a large bouquet of roses. I had never been loved so much by a man before, so I immediately agreed. I was very excited about the wonderful days that lay ahead of me. However, what awaited me was living with my in-laws. I was going to decline because there was no prior discussion, but my husband was firm about living together. My parents are decent people, so it's going to be okay. He passionately explained how much my in-laws were looking forward to living with me, so I couldn't refuse in the end. And so, for the past 10 years, I have been living with my in-laws at my husband's home. Life there was something I could never have imagined when I first got married. Olivia, you forgot to clean the front door again, didn't you? Just as I finished making breakfast for everyone, my mother-in-law's nagging begins. It's a daily ritual. I'm sorry. Don't just apologize with words. Get it done right now if you understand. Even though I have to go to work, I'm treated like a servant from the morning. Ever since I started living with my in-laws, I've been forced to wake up at 5 a.m. every morning to make breakfast and clean. I wish she would do it herself since she's at home. Despite being a housewife and having time at home, my mother-in-law does not do any housework. I rush through my morning chores, go to work, and as soon as I get home, I start making dinner. By the time I go to bed, I'm so exhausted that I fall asleep instantly. This has been going on forever, and I often feel unwell due to exhaustion. I'm sure the cause is stress. I don't want the neighbors to think I'm slacking off, so make sure you clean properly. My mother-in-law is relaxing in the living room, eating the breakfast I made. You're gonna be late for work if you don't finish soon. Despite seeing all this, my husband has never stood up for me. My father-in-law also pretends not to see it, hiding behind his newspaper. Ever since I started living with my husband's family, I have been subjected to terrible mistreatment. Because of the stress, I've lost a lot of weight and look unhealthy. You're too skinny and unattractive. That's why you can't give birth to a child. I suddenly lost a lot of weight and my period stopped, making it impossible for me to have a child. Despite all of this being caused by my mother-in-law, I continue to be blamed for it. Before I got married, I was quite health conscious and paid good attention to my appearance. Now, there's hardly any trace of that left. I'm constantly depressed due to the stress from the continuous harassment from my mother-in-law and the shock of seeing my changed appearance in the mirror. I've become totally subservient to my mother-in-law. I've become so apathetic that I don't even feel like leaving this house anymore. Then, I received some devastating news. My father had suddenly passed away due to an accident. I hadn't been back to my family home in a long time because both my husband and my mother-in-law would berate me whenever I mentioned wanting to go there. Receiving the news of my father's death, I deeply regretted not spending more time with him. My family home is about an hour's drive from my in-laws' place, not too far. So I asked my husband and mother-in-law to come to my father's funeral. There's gonna be a funeral for my father. Oh, we're not going. Just let your family handle it. They cut me off before I could finish and said those words. I never thought they could be so heartless. With shoulders trembling with anger and grief, all I could reply was, "Understood." Many people gathered at my father's funeral. My father was self-employed and had a lot of connections. Everyone at the funeral was shedding tears, which showed how much he was loved. "Olivia, it's been a while. But what happened to you? You've lost so much weight." My mother, who I hadn't seen in a while, was shocked at my worn-out appearance. "Well, just a bit." "You're not sick, are you? I couldn't bear losing you too." My mother, thinking I was ill, started crying. Given her current mental state after my father's death, it wasn't surprising. I'm not sick, don't worry. I tried to calm my frantic mother and took a break in the waiting room. If you're not sick, then what's wrong? I thought back to my interactions with my husband and mother-in-law. Even when I told them about my father's death, they didn't say a word of comfort. Thinking about it made my anger bubble up, and I decided to tell my mother about my life at my in-laws' place. Actually, I've been subject to what you might call bullying by my mother-in-law. It's wearing me out. As I spoke, looking down, my mother peered into my face with a worried look. I'm relieved you're not sick, but this doesn't make me feel any better. Is that why you haven't been coming to see me? Yeah. As I nodded, my mother handed me a piece of paper. Take a look at this for yourself. Then think carefully about what to do next. When I looked at the paper my mother had given me, it turned out to be my father's will. My father, being a meticulous man, had left a will just in case something happened. It also mentioned inheritance. Inherit $2 million? That's what it says. You can decide how to use it. I was stunned by the large sum. At the same time, I began to hope that I could end my shared living situation. With this, I can build my own house and get out of my in-laws' place right away. Thanks to the inheritance my father left me, my life seemed to be getting brighter. I returned to my in-laws' home and was doing the household chores as usual. On the days when I have plans, the house tends to be messier than usual. This is probably inevitable since there's no one around to clean. While silently doing the chores, I was thinking about the $2 million I had inherited from my father. Despite my dislike for my mother-in-law, I wanted to stay with my husband, Michael. I decided to honestly discuss the large inheritance and suggest leaving the in-laws' home. There's something I want to talk about. After Michael's parents had gone to bed, I started the conversation when it was just the two of us. Talk? Yeah, about my father. Actually, I've come into an inheritance. Oh? How much? Well, it's $2 million. When I mentioned the amount, Michael was taken aback, perhaps because the figure was far beyond his expectations. Wait, what? That's right, $2 million. Upon grasping what I had said, Michael was overjoyed. He left you that much? That's generous. But about how to use this money, I was about to get to the main point, seeing Michael in a good mood. However, before I could speak, Michael suggested something outrageous. We need to transfer that money to my mom's bank account right away. I didn't understand what Michael meant. It was so absurd that I thought he was joking. No, why? I'm the one who inherited it, so that's not right. As I laughed and responded, Michael slammed the table angrily. What are you talking about? A wife's money belongs to her mother-in-law. It seemed that Michael did not realize he was saying something ridiculous. Seeing his serious expression, I felt scared. I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're saying. All I wanted to do was suggest building a house for us to live together. But Michael didn't let me speak and tried to claim my inheritance for his mother. I couldn't sleep well that night due to the shock. The next day, while I was making breakfast, Michael and my mother-in-law approached me with angry expressions. Olivia, I heard about it. You inherited $2 million and you said you won't give it to me. Who do you think you are as daughter-in-law? My mother-in-law had already heard about the inheritance from Michael. But I'm the one who inherited it. Stop arguing and transfer it to my parents' account now. A daughter-in-law's money is our money. It seemed that they were determined to get the inheritance by any means. No matter how much I refused, they kept blaming me. As I fell silent, realizing my resistance was futile, Michael showed me a piece of paper. You're getting carried away because you've come into some money. I'm the one who's been supporting you. If you don't change your attitude, it's divorce. The paper was a divorce form. I've already signed it. Take this and go back to your parents' house. If you apologize properly, I might reconsider the divorce. I received the divorce form with Michael's part fully filled in. Staring at the divorce form, my past memories flashed back. I had never been financially supported in this house. I had been paying the same amount of living expenses as Michael, and all the household chores were my responsibility. I hadn't received any help or care. Despite that, they had always looked down on me. In the end, they were even trying to steal my father's money. If I stayed here, I might have felt so pressured that I would give them the inheritance. However, this money is what my father left for me. Being told to go back home, I actually saw it as an opportunity. Holding the already filled out divorce papers, I realized that the decision about my future was in my hands. I resolved to never give my father's inheritance, and I made a decision. I went back home after finishing work that day. I'm home! Welcome back! I had a feeling you would be back soon. My mother welcomed me with a warm smile, despite my exhaustion. My mother's home-cooked meals were laid out on the table. I couldn't remember the last time I ate a meal prepared by someone else. As I took a bite of the warm food, tears welled up in my eyes because of its deliciousness. Did you tell your husband about the inheritance? Yes, and it caused a fuss. I told my mother everything that my husband and my mother-in-law had said to me. At the shocking content, my mother was speechless. The inheritance is yours, and you decide your future. My mother comforted me gently as I cried. After being taken care of at my parents' home for a week, I decided to return to my in-laws' house. Well, I'm off. Take care. I wasn't afraid to go back to that house anymore. I headed back to my in-laws' house with a refreshed feeling. Finally back, huh? Have you reflected on your behavior? As soon as I returned to my in-laws' house, my husband and mother-in-law were waiting for me, arms crossed. Yes, I apologize. Please, let me live in this house again. I offered a superficial apology. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law grinned. Well then, hand over the inheritance quickly. Actually, the inheritance process is taking a while. I haven't received it yet. It's a complex process, so it might take another 6 months or so. Does it take that long? Well, fine. Both my mother-in-law and husband seemed satisfied, thinking I would hand over the inheritance obediently. However, they kept nagging about me going back to my parents' house for a week. Because you're not doing your duties as a wife, the house is a mess. Clean it up quickly. The in-laws' house was incredibly messy and unhygienic after just a week. It was almost impressive how they could make such a mess in a short time. Understood. The old me would have been deeply upset to see such a state. But now, I didn't care. No matter how much my mother-in-law bullied me or how hard the housework was, it didn't bother me at all. I did the housework as my mother-in-law ordered. It was my mother-in-law's birthday. I'll be going then. Make sure you keep the house clean. My mother-in-law always went on a trip for her birthday. Of course, I wasn't invited. By the way, have you received the inheritance yet? It's supposed to come in today. That's convenient. That $2 million is a present for Mom. Make sure to transfer it to Mom's account before we return. It's just too convenient that my mother-in-law's birthday coincides with the inheritance. My husband was unable to see through my lie. Without answering, I sent off the three of them with a smile, saying, "Take care." As soon as they were out of sight, I started executing my plan. I had been waiting for this day for a long time. They'll be quite surprised when they return from their trip, but that's no longer any of my concern. I quickly packed my things and left my husband's family home. Wow, this is amazing! I was moving my belongings into my new home. Actually, I had built a house with my father's inheritance. I'm so happy to be able to live in such a beautiful house. And I decided to live with my mother from my hometown. I'm truly happy that I don't have to worry about those people anymore. I sank into the plush sofa, feeling content. Today is a celebration of my new home with my mother. We invited a chef to our home and spent a luxurious day. The next evening, I received a call from my husband. What the hell is going on? He probably didn't understand the situation, as all my belongings were gone when he returned home. I won't be coming back there. Goodbye. I tried to hang up without wanting to talk to my husband, but my mother-in-law was yelling on the other side of the phone. What are you doing? Where are you now? I cannot tell you that. You told me to clean the house, so I tidied up my belongings. That's not a funny joke. Plus, you didn't transfer the inheritance. How many times do I have to tell you that the daughter-in-law's money is mine? Huh? I'm single, you know. When I answered that, my yelling mother-in-law suddenly became silent. Single? Well, I'm a divorcee. I was handed a divorce paper, so I submitted it. I'm a stranger to you now. Goodbye. I hung up the phone after saying that. I couldn't stop laughing, imagining my mother-in-law's stunned face on the other side of the phone. I feel very relieved to be unrelated to that family now. After that, I received numerous calls from my ex-husband. When I had some free time, I purposely picked up the phone and ignored the abuses from my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I thoroughly recorded all those calls. I decided to consult the police with those recordings. Harassment from an ex-husband is not uncommon. We'll give a warning before it gets dangerous. Thankfully, the police responded immediately and went to warn my ex-husband's family. For my ex-family-in-law who care about their public image, just having the police come would be enough damage. In addition, a subordinate of my ex-husband who lived in the neighborhood saw the police coming. My ex-husband was a prominent figure in the company, so the rumors spread quickly. Moreover, the colleagues and subordinates who didn't like my ex-husband started to spread bad rumors about him. Eventually, the rumor reached the department I belonged to. Did you hear that the police came? I'm divorced now, so I don't really know. What? You're divorced? Yeah, I was fed up with the abusive language from my mother-in-law and my husband. I spoke in a loud voice so that others could hear. The rumor-loving employees spread the rumor even more. It didn't take long for the rumor to reach my ex-husband's boss. You've been getting a lot of bad rumors. Huh? What are you talking about? I hate men who can't cherish their wives. Moreover, with such bad rumors circulating, it'll harm our reputation, so I've decided to transfer you. The transfer order given to my ex-husband was harsh. Wait, this place is... It was a branch office in the worst performing region. There's absolutely no entertainment around. It's a place you could call a landlocked island. You know what this means, right? Everything my ex-husband had built up to this point had collapsed, and there was no prospect of promotion in the future. Unable to refuse the transfer order, my ex-husband had to move to this rural area. As for my ex-mother-in-law, she was probably shocked that her son's reputation had dropped, and that she could no longer live with him. She ended up becoming a recluse, which led her to developing depression. There were also suspicions of dementia, as she often caused disturbances at home. My ex-father-in-law is desperately taking care of the drastically changed ex-mother-in-law. Even if there's no blood relation, a daughter-in-law is still an important family member. What happened to my former in-laws was simply karma for the harassment they continued to inflict upon me. Now, I'm living happily with my mother. We've even started gardening in our spacious yard. If I were still in that house, I would have never encountered this wonderful hobby. Having found a hobby has made me feel alive. My body, which was worn out from stress, is now healthy again. I'm so happy that I could cut ties with my former in-laws.